So, Riley, a few stats for those that don't know you, and let me know if I got anything wrong, but you're almost 21. You've been writing songs since you were
Yes, I
10.
turned 21 in December, so I'm fresh to the
Oh,
21
really?
gang.
Oh,
But I'm here now.
congrats.
Thank you.
You've been writing songs since you were 10. You were signed with a manager when you were 13, and you released your debut album when you were 18. Is that all right?
So far, so good.
So
Check, check, check.
awesome. Now, you don't have to look far to realize how tough the entertainment industry can be, especially for young people growing up in that. So I was wondering, what's been your personal experience growing up in the music industry as a young woman, especially?
Looking back now, first of all, that's a really great question. I think the biggest thing for me has been having an amazing team around me. Navigating the industry when you're young can be challenging for many reasons, but mostly because there's this huge balance of acknowledging the fact that A, you are young and there are people around you that know what they're doing more so than you might at the time, but also finding authenticity and finding the ability to speak up for yourself and represent yourself in a way that's honest. And I'm so sorry, my phone's ringing. So rude. Um, but another one is finding that balance of people around you who are going to hold you accountable, but also want to see you succeed and be honest as well. So
Mm,
it's a fine balance.
mm, sure. And so you're actually about to release your second album. It's called Godsend. It's I was wondering, is that a subtle DC Talk reference, maybe?
No, but I'm so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that because growing up, my dad, he played DC Talk like it was his job.
Yeah.
And so when I wrote that song, my dad was one who's like, "Hey, there's this really cool thing you need to know about." But I love that. It may be a subtle reference. We'll
Maybe,
say that
yeah.
it is. Um, but
Tony
yes,
Mac will
I'm
be in
so
touch soon.
excited. Yes, exactly. He'll be reaching out. I actually have gone to school with all of his kids, so
Oh,
he's
really?
nearby.
I love
Yeah,
that.
in Nashville, everybody's near. It's crazy. Um, but yeah, I'm so stoked. I have a new album coming out on June 4th.
Mm. Yeah, and we've heard a few singles from it already. Well, actually, specifically on the album Godsend, I understand that it came about as you were asking some tough questions at the start of this pandemic. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I actually wrote the song April of 2020. So it was fairly soon after the world started to shut down. And I just remember sitting on my bedroom floor. And at that point, everything was changing still very rapidly. And I had a booked year planned, building a career. I'm stoked because my calendar's filled up and, coming off of a song called Fighting for Me, things were picking up and ready to go. And all at once everything stopped and shut down. And I remember having this conversation with God, asking, I don't get what abundance is right now. If you promise life in abundance, I don't feel it. So tell me how you're going to show up for me. And God really reshaped my definition of what abundance means and how to live a life that's full of joy and happiness. And so as I sat on the floor there, in faith, I wrote a song called Godsend, which had been a title that I'd kept in my phone for years, waiting to write it at the right moment when I had the words to tell the story through the song. And we wrote the line, "What if maybe every broken place I've been was a godsend?" And it became the foundation, not only for that song, but the foundation for what the record we would finish writing over the next few months would be. And
Hmm.
it's really just in the middle of chaos, in the middle of being human and not knowing, choosing faith and choosing to believe that God has got it under control. And we actually have a little snippet that we could play you guys that we haven't played for anybody yet, if you guys want to hear a little bit.
I would love that. That would be amazing.
Okay, this is very fancy. We set it up to be very fancy, so I'm gonna cue Godsend.
Thank you, Riley.
Oh, every closed door, every single sharp door, and every answer that didn't make sense. What if maybe they were just teaching me to depend on your strength in the dark days? All my tears got me crying out to you again. What if maybe every broken place I've been was a godsend.
I love
I just
that.
love that.
That's
Thank you
beautiful.
so much. Thank
Seriously.
you.
That's a great melody and beautiful lyrics too.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. That was kind of what laid the foundation for what the album was going to visually look like and sound like and
Mm.
be produced like. And I got to have my hands all in that. So it was very exciting to see that idea that started on my bedroom floor in the middle of a pandemic turn into the title of my new record.
Yeah, oh, I love that. Speaking of which, you have released a few singles so far. I actually want to touch on your first single you released, Healing, which we've been loving here on the show as well since last year. But I think in this particular season, that song has really resonated with many listeners. But can you tell me a bit about the story behind that particular track as well?
Of course. All of the songs I write have a constant theme in the sense that I write them all based on stories of things I've experienced or I've watched the people in my life experience. And on this song specifically, I remember walking into the studio and my sister was on my mind, my younger sister. She's 2 years below me, so she's 19 now. This was a couple years back, and she was in the middle of a tough season of life. She was in a very transitional period where things hadn't gone exactly how she envisioned them going, and she was struggling to find the hope that's found in healing. And so I wanted to write a song of what I believed for her and was praying for her. And it's basically a story of healing and grace for where our shortcomings are. I just wanted to remind her of that because we're so hard on ourselves and it's so easy to forget that God's grace is good enough to cover all of it. So that was what healing was based on.
I love that. And I know so many musicians right now, as we touched on earlier, are itching to travel again. And I know that's one of your passions too. Is that right?
Yes,
Traveling?
I love to travel.
Well,
I miss it.
if you visit, when you visit Australia, I was wondering, are there any particular things you're looking most forward to, or anything's on the the bucket list for Australia when you do?
Yes. And I mean this when I say this. Number one would be the people. I
Yeah.
love Australian culture from what I've seen of it. I've just like barely dipped my toes in it based on, people who are in Nashville that have migrated from Australia.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited to be around the culture, the people, go to the beaches maybe and have some coffee. I
Mm.
hear Australian coffee is just different in the best way.
Yes, I have to say I didn't realize how special Australian coffee was until I went basically everywhere else. So,
Okay, that's good to know. I really heard good things though.
oh yes, no, you won't be disappointed, but hopefully sooner rather than later as well. Now here on Fresh, we're all about discovering new artists and new music. So I wanted to know from you if you have any recommendations right now of new songs or artists that you've been loving. They don't have to; they can be Christian or otherwise, but any new stuff that you've been loving in
Oh.
particular that you want to let people know about, or you reckon people might like.
That's a great one. You know what? I've been listening to a lot of jazz lately,
Ooh,
which is always, I don't know if your listeners are into the jazz, but I've been listening to a lot of jazz
no,
lately.
jazz is cool.
I couldn't tell you people by name because most of it's instrumental, but if we're talking about artists, I've been listening to a lot of Julia Michaels,
Hmm.
and I really love how she crafts a song and creates music. And then another artist that's Nashville based is Ingrid Andress, and she's another great storyteller, just through music and lyrics. So
Hmm.
2 recommendations.
Awesome. Thanks for that. We'll definitely check those out. And finally, When God Send comes out, it's about to come out on June 4, and already a few new singles out. But I'd love for you to tell me, I guess, what you'd like people to experience the album, how you'd like people to experience the album in terms of, physical setting, with headphones, or, how the ambience of the room should be maybe when they listen, or in the car, and any particular special fave tracks that you're most looking forward to when it comes
Oh my
out.
goodness. Those are great questions. So, very exciting. Godsend is coming out on June 4th, like you said, and it's available for pre-order right now. And if you
Awesome.
pre-order it, you get lots of tracks that we've already released, which is very exciting too. But this album was very much written as my story has gone on over the past couple of years. And because of that, you have so many elements as far as a 21-year-old woman who's learning about God, learning about her faith, failing, having successes, having relationships that don't work out, having self-doubt, watching her sister experience self-doubt, all of these things. And so I think that however you like to listen to music is the best place to, because I wrote this album and listened to it in a zillion places, whether it was my car driving home from the studio, in the kitchen with my family. So you listen to it where you get comfy and listen to music. Then as far as favorites, we have another little snippet that we could play you guys, but this one is a song that I'm very excited about. It's called Headspace. And it's one of the standout tracks to me. It's one of the first that we wrote for this record. And it was based on the idea of leaving behind old thoughts that no longer serve you. So I was coming out of a relationship that was no longer a healthy thing for me. I found my mind going and existing in that old place. And I wrote the song to remind myself that you can't have my headspace unless I give it to you. And I decide where my thoughts go. So we wrote a song called Headspace, and we're going to cue it up for you right here if you guys want to hear some.
Thank you. That would be amazing.
You can't have my headspace. Won't let you in my safe place. Na na, oh na na na, yeah. You can say what you want, you can do what you like. You can throw another stone, but you're never gonna see my heart break. No, no, 'cause you can't have my headspace. You can't have it.
That's a vibe. That's a vibe.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited about that one. This album has a little bit of everything, so I can't wait for people to hear.
Definitely. Well, very much looking forward to the new album. It's called Godsend. You can pre-order it now, and you can also buy and stream it when it's out on June 4. Riley Clemens, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I love Australia. I can't wait to come see you guys.
We can't wait either. Thanks, Riley, for your time.
Of course. Thank you so much. This was so much fun.